Hi. Well, I should say, I'm Don. It's late. I'm up. Hi. But other than that, pardon me. Let me try that again. Take two. I'm Don. It's late. I'm up. Hi. How are you guys tonight? Oh, I'm good. Thanks for asking. Um, right now, I figure we're going to watch a movie together, try something new. Oh, that's right. We do this all the time. I'm Don, your host. I'm going to be watching tonight the movie Seven by David Fincher. I've been on a kick lately of watching comfort food movies, as I call them, films that I've seen way too many times. And because of that, I feel like, just I don't have to pay attention to them either because they were on cable so much or they were a physical media VHS tape that I owned or DVD or whatever. And I just would put it on and watch it over and over. So this Seven is one that I've seen so many times because it's one of my favorite, like, creepy crime drama, almost horror. Like, it's weird to call this a comfort food movie because it's so psychologically disturbing. But I mean, a woman gets effed to death. So, oh, I see some folks are piling in here. That's nice of them. Let's see what's going on with the chat here. But uh, our friend Spicoli is here. What's up, my brother? Shaka, nice to see you. Nice to see you. Spicy 4K Action. If you're not familiar with Spicoli, what a cool dude. So drop by and check out his channel. He's often a supporter of these streams. So I would like to send some love back that guy's way. He's the coolest. Hope all is good, brother. Thank you, sir. I wish the same back to you. You're a good man. Oh, damn, I wish I had time for this one. Yeah, me and you got to plan one some night when you're up late, Sean. I know you're a bit of a night owl too. So some night when you're going to be able to stay up late, me and you got to find a flick to watch together over here. And then I'll jump in on some time over there to get back for Judgment Night. But I appreciate you dropping by and saying hello. Comfort food is a bad way to put it with that fat guy in the spaghetti scene. Yeah, that's one of the things about this movie. It's so memorable. There's so much going on that's like just crazy. The plotting of it. Basically, the way I describe it is, other than the fantastic acting, the perfect pacing, the excellent writing, the wonderful directing and cinematography, just the overall movie itself, and then the surprise cameo that plays to a big surprise ending that's iconic. Other than that, it's all right. You know what I mean? Like, it's a messed up, crazy movie that's disturbing on many levels, but it's somehow kind of awesome and amazing. So, let's see here. Man is here. Hey, kids, nice to see you. But yes, that spaghetti scene up front is incredibly memorable. So like I say, the part with the guy with the sex toy with the knife on the end of it, that's incredibly memorable. The part with the SWAT team when they go in and that dude's like decayed and he's almost down to like a zombie like corpse, and they have all the air fresheners like you have in a car, the little trees hanging up in the ceiling so it doesn't stink in there. Just so much memorable stuff. John, what's his name, McGinley or whatever, that dude from Office Space. He's just over and over. This movie has hits. Arlie Ermy pops up. The surprise cameo at the end that we're not supposed to talk about till it turns up, so we won't talk about it till then. But yeah, as you can see, even now I'm like invigorated, excited about Seven. It's so sad that this horrible, gross movie is like one that makes me so happy, but it's awesome. Amazing. Hi, everybody. Yeah, I think I'm going to get started here in a sec. I'm watching this one on Max tonight. Um, I don't know where else it's playing. I preferred the physical media copy. I used to have this, or I still do, but it's in box right now, with this dope DVD set that was like John Doe's diary. And then in there, you would, there was a double disc and they had all these featurettes and there was a whole bunch of commentaries on there and stuff. So that's why this is a movie I've put on and just like, oh, I need to clean my room. So I'm going to put one of my favorite movies on. And I was a big David Fincher guy. I love his movies. So I would put this on along with Fight Club or The Game or Panic Room or Zodiac. Like, I love me some David Fincher. So this one I've seen so many times. I really can't remember how. If you told me more than 10, I wouldn't be able to argue. Especially with cable. Oh yeah, I owned this on VHS and later on DVD. This is one of the ones I learned my lesson on. I gave the VHS away after I got the DVD, and then as I went back later and wished I had all my VHS, I was mad at all the ones I gave away. So, someone out there got a free 7, and I hope they're happy with it. Well, let's see here. Yeah, I'd love to join the panel one of these days. You can always email here at horrorcommunity666@gmail.com and let me know what's on the pipeline. That'd be awesome, Sean. Yeah, like I say, you're a dude I've been on here buddies with for a long time. And when I started this channel or started doing live streams, you're one of the people I intended to have on right from the beginning. And I've just kind of got sidetracked with life craziness. But anyways, as we were saying, we're going to watch Seven on Max. It's 2 hours and 7 minutes. So it's 1 a.m., well, 1:06 Central Time. So that means 2 a.m. Eastern Time. So that means 4 a.m. for those folks. So it'll probably be the usual shift change where people have to go to sleep because they're just too tired. And then other folks will be getting up. But yeah, it's going to play on Max. The description before I go too far. Lieutenant William Somerset is forced to train his replacement, Detective David Mills, and the two are drawn into the twisted world of a cunning criminal. Wow, clever use of the word cunning. And that's some heavy-handed writing right there, that the detective who's retiring and is getting ready to leave his job and move on, his name is Somerset. That one's a bit heavy. I would try to argue against not that. But let's go ahead and press play. See what we got going on here with our friends in the chat. Spicoli says, you happy to see this getting on a 4K this year? I don't really mess with 4K. At least I haven't yet. I haven't had a good 4K device. No good TVs or nothing in 4K, so no reason for me to have had it yet. But when I do move into the 4K, I'm sure I will love it. I always love more clarity. I'll go back and watch movies I've seen 50 times just to see what they look like in this presentation. Let me see here. Sean's surprised that the 4K is coming out this year. Spicy says, yeah. Man, I love Panic Room. It's been a while since I've seen it, and it definitely needs an upgrade. Yeah, Panic Room is just a classic thriller. It's very Hitchcockian. The way the camera moves throughout the house and like the hardwood floors and the banisters, it does a great job of making the house as like a character in the movie. Here the movie opens on Morgan Freeman. It's a cold open. Morgan Freeman getting ready for work. Part of the thing I love about this movie so much is that it well, actually, I see our friend Sean is talking about it. So let me bring this up real quick. Let's hear. Not too tired, too much tequila. Oh, yeah. Brad Pitt does such a good job of playing an inexperienced cop in this, and Morgan Freeman sees that off the bat. Exactly. I was just getting ready to talk about that. Here, and glad to be sane. Nice to see you, Hobbs. I hope you're doing okay, buddy. It's like you can already see his fate, too. Man says Hobbs. Yeah, we're happy to see Hobbs. Yes, exactly, Sean. Let me bring that back up this comment. Yeah, that's one of the things I love about this movie. One of the many, many things I love about it is, excuse me, I got the tickle in the throat. I feel a cough coming on. I don't want to have to cough into the microphone. There we go. Jesus Christ, Tom. Anyway, so this is the first murder. Morgan Freeman's that. This is the one that you were talking about, the spaghetti murder. Brad Pitt shows up for his first day at work, and we see him and Morgan Freeman interacting with one another. I've already pressed play. We're at 2:04:50 left on the HBO Max countdown. I hate the fact they don't show me the regular time. But part of the thing I like about this movie is it sets you up with a trope of old retiring cop, young, like brash cop. Like this is Lethal Weapon, right? This is Danny Glover and Mel Gibson. We've seen this dynamic before in like cop shows and stuff. So right away, we feel like we've kind of seen this before. It feels like a familiar setup. And then that's part of the ride this movie takes you on, is when it starts going into these crazy things like, some of the murders and how gross they get and how much blood actually shows up. I think these two actors, and then also Gwyneth Paltrow, and then later on the actor that shows up, the surprise cameo, they're all like above a movie like this. Like none of them should have to be at this level of like low level thriller kind of cop movie. But then as the movie keeps unfolding and unfolding, you're like, oh wow, I see how they got people to do this. This is crazy. Let me see where we're at here. Hobbs says bed hard to sleep. Man says she's awake folding clothes. You'll enjoy this one. It's a good one. Yeah, man. Have you seen this one before? I'm curious. Obviously, I always ask if you've seen this before, or if you haven't, let me know in the chat or in the comments. These are movies I always think that like everybody's seen, especially this one. It has the GIF is like almost iconic. It's like a meme at the end with the what's in the box and all that. So, Sean says they're all going to get wrinkled anyways, and she points out, yeah, they are. She's folded clothes before. How about that 7 ripoff called Resurrection with Christopher Lambert? Yeah. I actually own that on DVD. That was one I bought in a dump bin for $1 or whatever, and I was like, okay, I'll check this one out. There were a handful of like knockoffs. Excuse me, sheesh. Because this movie caught so many people off guard. Like I think the 7 days of a story that plays out. I think the different murders, the 7 deadly sins and all that. I think even to a certain extent, maybe 8mm kind of even jumped in on the success of this movie, of just like this overly edgy cop drama that really digs in. As far as a serial killer movie goes, this I think is my second favorite. I think I'm going to go Silence of the Lambs, and then I'll probably go 7, and then American Psycho. But American Psycho is a bit of a different animal, but American Psycho is pretty awesome. Then I would probably go California with Brad Pitt. You ever seen that one? That one's wild. And then I would probably go. That's tough. It's either Zodiac, the Fincher movie, or oh god, what's that one with Dylan McDermott or Dermot Mulroney? I get them confused. Dylan McDermott, right? The one where that's basically the BTK killer. The oh god, what's that one called? The Clove Hitch Killer. The Clove Hitch Killer is a good serial killer movie. But in general, I don't like true crime serial killer movies because they kind of tread on other people's misery. They make their money off of someone else's life tragedy. So these fake stories, I'm all for. Like this and American Psycho, and then Silence of the Lambs and Manhunter and all that. It's like, yeah, that's more my speed. I like a good yarn. Let me see what we got going on here. But anyways, yeah, part of the reason I think this movie's amazing is it is almost a horror movie. And right now we're seeing John Doe put together his diary and cutting out the little things meticulously. And we sort of understand that this is an unhinged, manic, crazy person. Let me see. Let's see what we got going on in the chat before we just introduced Gwyneth Paltrow, but before I get started on that, let me see what you guys are talking about. A man says she's seen bits and pieces of 7. That's a kind of a funny joke. If this movie's like one notch away from being a Saw movie, so that's why it's funny to say you've seen bits and pieces of it. There's a part later where a guy has to like literally cut off 10 pounds of his own flesh or 15 pounds of his own flesh. It probably doesn't hold a candle to 7, but Resurrection has some gruesome moments, and the killer likes collecting body parts. Yeah, there's another one. Oh god, there's a bunch of ones. What's the one, Switchback or whatever, with the serial killer on the train? And then Suspect Zero is like a psychic serial killer movie, which is kind of a ripoff of the old Fury and all that stuff. But yeah, like I said, 8mm I kind of consider in this batch of just over the top serial killer movies, like real gruesome and lots of the guy plays games. The killer plays games with the cops, so it makes the movie more interesting. There's like riddles to solve and stuff. No, pretty much other than Zodiac, most of the time they don't do that. Let's see. You haven't started it yet, right? I just got her going. Let's see where we're at. We're at the 1 hour and 58 minute, 46 second, 45 second, 44 second. And they're going in. I'm sorry, I spoke early. Now I believe is where they go in and they find the body of the guy who with the spaghetti or whatever. Earlier was a different murder. This movie, it takes place all throughout in the rain. Like you're supposed to feel just how, like I like a rainstorm, but when it rains for 7 straight days and you're trying to solve murders and stuff, like yeah, eventually the rain just kind of beats down on you and it feels like another character in the movie. And then finally on that last day when they go out to get the box FedExed out to them, then it's a nice day. The rain finally goes away. You know, like, this movie's just got all sorts of awesome, crazy stuff in it. Here's classic David Fincher cinematography. He loves dark rooms with lights. So the detectives go in and there's no light in there and they have to walk around with flashlights and you just see beams, blasting around the room. A lot of the aesthetic of this I noticed was in the newer Batman movie, the Batman or whatever, the Matt Reeves, is that his name? That one. Let me see who else we got here in the chat. Hey, Patrick's here. Hoot hoot, nice to see you, Patrick. Are you a fan of Seven? I know Patrick is a collector and fan of all movies. So yeah, here they found my man. He's like extra huge. This corpse, the heavy dude who gets fed and fed and fed, and then eventually like makes his own stomach explode and dies. I believe this is the writer, Andrew Kevin Walker. I think he plays the corpse here, or at least the model that they used before they had the scenes where he had to keep his face in the spaghetti all day or the soup. But they start off just in the dark in a kitchen with old food and this decaying body. So you just right away, this movie feels like it stinks. Oh, let's see here. Everybody's welcome. And Patrick, seen this once and it was recent, but man, what a film! I've been missing out. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And like I said, I bought this on VHS previewed back in the 90s. And then that was like when I first started collecting physical media. So it was like one of my first 10 movies I owned on VHS. And I was college age. So of course the other fellows always wanted to watch some sort of, my roommates or other people on my dorm floor always wanted to watch a movie. So this one got watched over and over and over. And then around this same time, Fincher released The Game with Michael Douglas and Sean Penn. And then he did Fight Club, and then Panic Room, and it was just like, this guy's amazing. I'll watch anything he does. Patrick says the Clovitch Killer is IFC Midnight. Yeah, I enjoyed that one. It's kind of a hidden gem one. It bounces around on all the different streaming services. I saw it on Netflix, but it was also on like Tubi the last time I was digging through there. Hey, Echo Zero is here. What's in the box? Part of the reason this stream is going on tonight, I did a stream 2 nights ago, a double feature of Above the Rim and Juice for Tupac Tuesday. I watched a 2-pack of Tupac movies for the last Tuesday in Black History Month. So for that, I took last night off, and then I was thinking about taking the night off and working on some stuff and finishing up the junk I was working on last night. Because tomorrow at 5:30 Central, 6:30 Eastern, I have In the House with our friend the Horror Cat Dad, our weekly kind of catch-up hangout show where we figure out what's going on in pop culture and just sort of hang out and BS. So that's tomorrow in the afternoon. So I thought about taking tonight off, but then I was over at the Boneyard. Well, actually, it was the Midnight Hour being hosted by Bones, special guest host. I believe our friend Hobbs isn't feeling well right now. So our friend Bones was hosting a special feature, and they were watching Bride of Reanimator. And when I was over in that chat hanging out for a while, Mayanne was once again bullying me, as she often does, and insisted that her and Demonia insisted that I have a chat tonight because they said they were both going to be up. So I'm glad to see Mayanne is here, and I'm glad to see Echo, who is also on the chat, is here. Echo Clown is in the box. Greetings, Reed Mayanne. Oh, let's see. Yeah, it's from 1999. It's similar to Seven. Most people can get into it, and that's understandable. Yeah, I remember Resurrection. I haven't, I only saw it maybe once or twice. It was on Cinemax when I saw it, but then I bought the DVD out of a preview dump bin in a video store a long time ago, and it's always on my shelf. I'm like, oh yeah, Resurrection, but I never get around to it. Like I said, I just rattled off 6 or 7 good serial killer movies right off the dome that fast, so you can imagine how many of these damn things I've seen. I always find the serial killer movies are good because they're a good police procedural. You just ride along with the cops as they try to solve a mystery or whatever. But then, it's a good excuse for a whoa, that's gross out without being full on horror. Man says the Clovis Killer. It's on one of my Prime subscriptions. Gonna have to check that one, Patrick. Yeah, it's pretty good. Never eating spaghetti again. The Clovis Killer works well with the cast. Yeah, I think that's what I have to say about Seven is the difference between this and just some crappy direct-to-video, thriller. You could recast this with all B and C level stars and make this same movie. But this movie is elevated because Gwyneth Paltrow and Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman and Arlie Ermey and all these people that are in it. It takes place in Atlanta. If it isn't made in California, right? Then it's probably made in Atlanta. Yeah, the Georgia filming, they make it cheaper there. They give you tax breaks. I love Seven. John McGinley is a SWAT captain. Yeah, McGinley is great in this. Hey, Russell here. Tex, buenos dias, compadres. Hola, mi amigo. Thank you for joining us, Texas HXSCX 1965. I try to get out the full name on these things. Hate seeing people mixing spaghetti and milk. My mom used to try that when I was a kid. Fuck, Ma. Geez, that's me. That's child abuse as far as I'm concerned. Spaghetti and milk. Because, the tomato is an acid and then the milk is a base. So the two alone, I don't know. Doesn't seem like they would work. Here's Arlie Ermey talking to Morgan Freeman. And this Morgan Freeman's got this, he understands that this, the signs of the murders make it look like more things are going to happen. As he says, he's like, this is just the beginning. And he's like, well, you just stay on until the end of this case. And he's like, what are you, crazy? So yeah, then they turn it over to Brad Pitt, and that's an important turn in the story because you see that this is going to be a buddy cop detective team thing, but for a quick minute up front, they have Brad Pitt on his own, and you see how over how much it's over his head. He's not ready for this to be his first case, and that's what Morgan Freeman's saying right here. Let's see. Let's see here. Horror Cat Daddy, guys. Man, boy. Yes. So tomorrow in the afternoon, we're going to have Into House episode 5, which will be on my channel. For those of you who are a fan of that series, every other week is on mine or Larry's channel. Last week's was on Larry, and then the weeks after will be on Larry. But so tomorrow it's on my channel. I host. I imagine we'll probably talk about the new Crow. I don't know if you guys have seen pictures of that. That's the what's his name, Bill Skarsgård or whatever. I think the guy that played Pennywise, maybe. I don't know. Or is it Alexander Skarsgård? I have so much going on, I don't remember. Here we see, they're classic, just David Fincher cinematography. He shoots, or he doesn't shoot, but he directs it to be shot very dark and contrasted, and lots of shadows. And then the things. Right here is a great shot of just a bunch of newspapers. Then later on, there's shots of buildings and stuff. The way he directs a film, he shoots insert shots better than anybody. He seems to really, I think normally you would even have the B unit director do your insert shots. Here's the police commissioner, Richard Roundtree, Shaft. Another reason to love this movie, that the chief of police or the police commissioner or whatever is Shaft. Shaft eventually worked his way up in this movie world. Yeah, and here's Brad Pitt going into the is this the Greed murder? And they do like a good one shot of him walking into the murder, and you hear people whispering like their lack of confidence in him, and the reporters are trying to interview him, and he's not ready for that either. Give me the shot. Which one is it? This is Greed, right? So the first one was Sloth, the man who was so big and heavy that the serial killer John Doe eventually decided that he just wasn't worthy to live because he was so gross. And then now this one is this lawyer who frees all the worst criminals in the world as deemed by the killer. So he kills him, and I'm trying to remember which one this is. Greed? Because this is the guy who has to give a pound of flesh, and he has to figure out, like, this reminds me of Saw a lot. Like, he has to cut a bit of his own flesh off, a pound for every sin. And they discuss later on, like, if you had to cut part of your own body off, what would you start with? The love handles. And yeah, the Greed murder. There it is. Ugh. And Greed is written in big letters in blood on the carpet. But this movie, like I say, it follows a good pattern. It takes place over 7 days. It's 7 murders. It's the 7 deadly sins. You kind of know as each day ticks down that we're getting closer to a climax. It helps psychologically keep the story structure. Oh, let's see what we got going on here. Cinephile Sandy says he'll be doing 7 in the summertime in July on his channel. So be sure to drop in on that. You guys have them planned out far. I like that. Like, sometimes I wish YouTube wouldn't show me until they're within a week, because they often will tell me about some stream you got coming up in like 4 months. But you guys plan them out far. Like, I like that you have these all mapped out. And I know you do stuff on like the anniversary of a release date, or like on some actors' birthdays or whatever. Like, you guys have like your ideas of when to plan them out. But yeah, apparently you can rewatch 7 in about July, so that'll give you plenty of time to have it not be fresh on your mind. You can let it wash off. Those pictures look god awful. Yeah, The Crow is doomed. Yeah, the dude looks skinny and weird, but I mean, I think that's kind of the character they're going for, to try to make it look less like the Brandon Lee Crow. I don't know. Junovan, the 7 remake. Movie is probably going to be a cologne commercial. Yeah, it could be. I could see that. 7 Juno, 7 plagues. Yeah, I like all this, the apathy of the just the frustration, I guess, of the Morgan Freeman character. You can tell he's been doing this job for a long time, and he's explaining to his boss, like, I just don't understand this place anymore. Like, he's at the stage of his life where he can't understand humanity's cruelty to each other, or he can't understand, how people could be mean to children, or any of these things that just, will break a man down after years and years and years of this shit. And you feel his like just exhaustion of the job. I mean, Morgan Freeman is the walking embodiment of exhaustion. He plays exhausted better than anybody. I think that's like his key trait. He's just like, if a deep sigh could be a human being, it would be Morgan Freeman. Put it this way, we have things scheduled until Halloween, but nothing is set in stone until that certain month comes around. So things are subject to, okay. See, I didn't know how often. I was going to ask how often you guys had to like change streams or drop streams, but I don't really see you do it too often. That's what amazes me. You guys keep that train running on track. We consider the channel a repertory theater. Exactly, Russell. So once again, Morgan Freeman's gone back to one of the crime scenes, and he's kind of walking around and looking. And this is where he figures out, yeah, this is totally like some Riddler out of Batman crap right here. He figures out that the refrigerator has been pulled out from behind the wall a little bit. And because of that, it's scratched up the floor. and little bits of linoleum shavings came out, and they ended up in the dude's stomach in the autopsy report. Like, this is all just, this is a bit much, but it's perfect for this kind of movie, right? Like, the whole point of this is that it's supposed to just be absurd and keep you guessing, like, I don't understand what's going on. And then later on, when they explain to you, that's how he knew to pull out the fridge to find the word gluttony written on the wall behind the fridge. Yeah, totally Riddler from Batman crap. Oh, let's see here. Like how we're in March now, so everything's scheduled for March is set in stone. Yeah, that makes sense. Because it seems like in July and stuff, who knows? Like, Juno had to go on vacation or whatever. Tex has had enough. He's not going to watch one more bad trauma movie or whatever. The killer was way over dedicated to his seven deadly sins craft. Yeah, that was a tongue twister for my dumbass there for a second. But yeah, you can see Morgan Freeman like feeling, he said this was going to be a thing. And now that he can prove that it's a thing and he's got 2 of the 7 deadly sins, he already knows. That's one of the parts I love where he's explaining to Brad Pitt and R. Lee Ermey, his boss, about the 7 deadly sins. And the phone rings and the captain answers the phone and says, "This ain't even my desk." And he hangs back up. It's like, aren't you supposed to be in charge of solving crimes? Like, your lack of actual caring for people's tragedies is bothersome, sir. Fincher, once again, shooting lots of shadows, lots of greens and taupes. Everything always feels real like earthy and just calm. He's never bright and big unless he does neon lights. Like, he's a big fan of Ridley Scott. So every now and then you'll get the Blade Runner homage with his neon lights. But other than that, he likes a lot of dark shadows and contrast. Like, crush the blacks, as the term is called. Like, you go into the editing and you turn up shadows, turn up contrast. Try not to jerk with the exposure too much. But like, if you do any editing, like, there's usually LUTs, the lookup table index or whatever they're called. And there's frequently David Fincher LUTs, like these muted colors like this, lots of browns. Great shot here where they go into the library and there's all these banker's lamps, the green, like, little pull string lamps, and it's just filled through the room. So they look almost like jellyfish floating. Fincher's just masterful at making a room come to life. Where was I? He just hanged up. Yeah, see, exactly. She knows. It's sort of hilarious. He, like, his police work. Ask your husband if that's allowed. Mayhan's husband is a police officer. I think he would probably argue with a lot of the police work in this. But this scene right here, you can kind of see Morgan Freeman being. This actually reminds me a lot of in Silence of the Lambs. There's the same exact scene in this where Jodie Foster does research and she goes and talks to those moth experts. And that one guy's got the lazy eye. He goes to the library and he does research on the 7 deadly sins, Milton, and the history of biblical extended literary works and stuff. So yeah, Chaucer with Canterbury Tales, and like I say, Milton and Paradise Lost and all this stuff, Dante's Inferno and all this stuff. But Brad Pitt, meanwhile, is just like sitting at home eating cereal and looking at the crime scene photos. Once again, they make the library look so romantic and amazing. No library ever looks like that. I mean, maybe in the Vatican or something, but where were we? Professor, greetings and salutations. So let's see here. Nice to welcome, Professor. I'm glad you're here, buddy. Yeah, it's always a party when the professor's here. He contributes to the conversation a lot. Professor, watching down on the big screen. Oh, really? That's awesome. I'm glad to be on the big screen. How do I look? Hi there. The professor can't watch because he missed parts 1 through 6. I think I got my thumbnail for my when I post this on Instagram. You trickster, you let me pinch your little evil face. Um, that's a good one, actually. Um, uh, uh, yeah, I was curious when I watched this one. I was like, I wonder if this is a professor favorite or not. This one's pretty high budget for you. I know you generally dig your movies to be like lower budget, kind of schlocky, but I also know you do love some crazy violence. And this is, I think, kind of the first time I really understood that things like the seven deadly sins weren't in the Bible. Like this is all from like yeah Dante's Inferno and the Canterbury Tales and all these different old extended poetry books that really don't have anything to do with the Bible. Well, they're about the Bible, but they're in no way connected. Dante's Inferno and stuff. But I like how they, of course, play the opera music all throughout the library real loud while he's doing his research. So it's like this, what's it called, diagenic or whatever. Like when the soundtrack of a movie is played, but there's a reason for it to be played. Like sometimes when a character's doing things, there'll just be a soundtrack playing. But other times we'll see like they're listening to a song on the radio, so it feels natural. It's called diagenic. I think it's called diagenic, whatever. It just is like a natural soundtrack that happens. Let's see here. A professor says, I actually do like this one. No boobies in it, but it makes up for it with the hella cool atmosphere and great freaky moments and an amazing ending. So me likey. You get it, professor. You always get it. That's almost word for word what I said earlier, except for no boobs. Um, I just really dig the atmosphere, like how like right now Brad Pitt is in the rain. And Morgan Freeman left him a note on his desk because he's retiring that explains a reading list of stuff for him to get, and Brad Pitt's just like he can't bear to read Dante's Inferno and poetry and stuff to try to solve a crime. But this rain and like the way the city just feels so oppressive and like him being new on the job and overwhelmed and Morgan Freeman being old on the job and sick of it. Like it just has such a, I don't know. This movie feels like a song. Like it makes you feel a way while you're watching it. Funny story. The previous owners in an apartment I used to live left a banker's lamp behind. I don't think I'd ever seen one before, and I hated it. And I started seeing them everywhere in movies. Yeah, that in movies in particular, they work really well because that green light works. It's almost like I don't know, stained glass or something. It works really cool, especially in like bars. You'll see bankers lamps or I don't know if I've ever actually seen one in a bank, strangely enough, but I think they were used by accountants mainly more than back in the day, which is funny. Same way the accountants used to have the people who counted money had green visors, like dealers, blackjack dealers and money counters and stuff. Why the green visor? They love green. It freaked me out so much I broke the lamp and threw it away. Good surprise ending. Yay. I like that one. High five. And I like that this movie shows a lot of the like I think a lot of us have heard stories about how being a cop is just so much paperwork and filing stuff and getting things clerically right to be, have your legal ducks in a row if you have to prosecute and everything. So this movie does a good job of showing just like cluttered offices and desks that are just like piled up with paper. And this is right at the edge of when computers started coming in. It's 95. So in 1995, police stations wouldn't have computers of any kind. They couldn't afford that. So they're all still typing on typewriters. I don't know if Morgan or if Brad Pitt's wife would invite Morgan Freeman to dinner 3 days into the job. That seems a little early. Man says, yeah, because I thought that ugly lamp was haunting me. Sorry you got bullied into a stream, Don, but great pick. Well, thank you, Professor. Yeah, May be bullying me. She's laughing. Yeah, she thinks it's funny. No, I had actually picked out a batch of like 10 movies or so to watch. And I've been meaning to watch Seven. It's embarrassing that this is like I call a comfort food movie. Sean was making fun of me for using that word earlier while the stomach murder, the dude who drowned in the spaghetti. But this movie, just like it, I've seen it so many times, and then it was on cable, and I would just, oh, Seven's on. And it's one of those because you know the structure, the 7 days, seven deadly sins. It's like, oh, they're on the third murder. Okay, yeah. Or like we're getting ready to come up to the one where they find the dead body with the little pine trees all above it so the apartment doesn't stink. That's such an amazing scene. Like it's haunting and scary. It's as scary as anything in any horror movie. Like it's terrifying. And this movie does a great job of that. Here's Gwyneth Paltrow. I said I would talk about her. This is, I think, the scene to talk about her. And she opens the door and says, "Hello, gentlemen," but it's a POV, so the audience sees what they see. And I generally don't like Gwyneth Paltrow. She's not my cup of tea. She's a little too bougie. She just looks like kind of a half snotty, pretty mom. Like I don't know. She's not what I'm into on a lot of levels. But in this movie, she is a perfect little angel. I don't believe that woman even poops. She only occasionally farts talcum powder. Like she is a glorious ray of sunshine. Me and Professor often joke about Saint Mom or Saint Girlfriend in these movies, like someone who's just so perfect. It's sort of absurdly ridiculous, like how supportive and kind they are. And she is the template for Saint Cop Wife. Like we almost know something bad's probably going to happen to her because she's such a good person. Like a person in their right mind can watch her in this and be like, I hope something bad happens to her. It's like, no, she's adorable. I don't even like Gwyneth Paltrow, and I just want to like reach into the screen and give her a hug. She's like just a glowing, radiant little baby angel. I'll pinch your cheek, Gwyneth Paltrow. Holy shit, this movie's almost 30 years old. Fuck, I'm old. I know. I still think of this and Fight Club as like kind of newer movies. And it's like, you mean them old ass movies from like 30 years ago? I was like, oh yeah. If he didn't crash, he still is. Sean's still here. Yeah, Sean, he said he had to get going soon. He felt bad that he wasn't able to stay for the end, but yeah, he was floating around. Yes, Professor is old, but not me. Damn it, Echo Tacos. Saint Gwyneth Paltrow, exactly. Echo, you are eternally young. Yes, he is. Yes, Professor, thanks to ITM and Wild Eye, I'm immortal, something Asylum can't do for you. Well, actually, Professor and Echo are so much smarter than someone like me. They're on that professional wrestling mask thing. Like, we'll never know how old Professor is. He can do that gig until he's like 90 years old and never age. Although he'll be like Old Man Macabre with the beard and Sonny, he's got the cane. But same with Echo. He can always just transition into Echo Clown and or even Echo Gamer. He can just digitize himself. This, like, yeah, the color scheme is so bland, but somehow it feels like a painting. Like it's like lots of smooth, like salmons and taupes and like faded yellows. Like the movie itself doesn't have big, bright, in-your-face colors. You know, there's no bright purples or teals. There's no lime green in this movie. Yeah, this looks like a southwestern decor pillow. That's a deep cut for you. Let me see here. Yes, but I first saw this movie when I never saw it in the theater. I saw it on VHS, and it blew my damn mind. I watched it. I was alone in college. I was like probably first year freshman, I think, and I didn't know anybody. So one of the first things I figured out in town is where's the movie theater and where's the video stores. And I found two. I found a Ma and Pa video store, and I found a Blockbuster out by the interstate. So this was one of the first movies I rented from that Ma and Pa video store in my college. I think there was a tiny video store in the student commons, but everything was always checked out because it was within walking distance, and only some of us had a car. So I had a car that I was willing to walk off campus to get in and then drive to a video store, as absurd as that is. And I think I watched this. I think I rented it twice. That's how much I liked it. I rented it and then brought it back and then was like, have you guys seen Seven? I'm going to go rent Seven. And then we had like a movie night with the fellas and watched it. But then later on, when it was previewed, I remember buying it for $9.99 and adding it to my collection, and it got watched over and over and over, like it all throughout. Like anytime I had roommates in college, usually four dudes in an upstairs apartment and four dudes in a downstairs apartment. It's like somebody somewhere wanted to watch Seven always. That's how Half Baked became a classic. Everybody I know wanted to watch my copy of Half Baked. But as I was saying earlier, when the DVD came out, this was one of the first banging sets. Like it was a double disc. It came in the black box, and it looked like John Doe's diaries. When you opened it up, it had all the crazy writing and stuff taped to it. And it had all these special features, and it had like 3 or 4 commentaries. Like that, this was early on in the DVD game. So having that much on something was like, wow. Now that's like, you have to put that much on a home release, or otherwise it's not worth the trouble almost. But I don't think I ever upgraded this one on Blu-ray. I don't know. When I unpack my physical media, it'll be a treat to see if I ever bought this one out of a dump bin for $5. Let's see here. Imagine you're sleeping and the subway shakes your whole house. Yeah. I used to live by an airport. And it was a small airport, but sometimes you would hear small planes flying real close overhead. It's like, what the hell? But I never had one like the Blues Brothers. This bits in that movie too, where they live next to the L in Chicago and it shakes their house. Never had that before. My one and only gripe about this amazing flick is that it led to most movies being drab and color corrected to be gray and gloomy. I miss bright colors movies. Yeah, exactly. This movie does have, as I was saying, a real muted color palette. It feels real, like it's lots of yellows instead of white lighting. There's no, just like I say later on, Fincher loves his neon because of Ridley Scott. So there's bits like later on where there's a giant like neon cross and a few other things that really just stick out. When I saw the new Batman, the Robert Pattinson, Matt Reeves, when I saw it in the theater, so much of that movie reminded me of this. Like I could tell they got a lot from Seven. Well, really, Saw gets a lot from Seven. The some of the tortures and the what would you do if some crazy person had you do whatever to try to bargain for your life. Like the Pride murder. Did that already happen, or is it coming up? I might have been answering questions then. But the Pride murder, like a beautiful woman, and he cuts up her face and he tells her, you can live, but you'll be ugly and disfigured for the rest of your life. But then he glues a bottle of sleeping pills to her hand. And he's like, or you can take yourself out because you don't want to live your life ugly and gross. And she takes herself out because of her own pride. And like just stuff like that. To me, that sounds like something from Saw, like a low level Saw murder, but that type of thing. Playing games with people's lives and psychologically messing with people. My crazy old ass might have to have the snapper case of this and the DVD and the digipack Blu-ray of this, because that's how I roll. I have the snapper case, I believe. Actually, you know what? The snapper case I gave away too. I explained earlier, I had the VHS of this, and then when I upgraded to the nice 2-disc 7 special edition, because I've watched the VHS so many damn times, that I gave away the VHS. And I think I might have had the snapper case too at one point and gave that away as well. Yeah, I fell into that trap. I later on learned to just hoard. It doesn't matter if I have 3 and 4 copies of something, because I'll be happy I do later on. But there was a point early on in my collecting where whenever I got a better version of something, I gave away the old one. Not anymore. So yeah, here's Saint Gwyneth waking up in the middle of the night and realizing the two of them are gone off on a murder thing, but she's just so adorable and supportive. She'll be fine. I can't do noises when I'm home. I love tranquility. Yeah, I need some peace and quiet too, especially you as a mom. Like, ooh, peace and quiet to you is golden. Man. Speaking of, there we go. Let's get cozy and let's have a brownie. This part, once again, this is some Batman Riddler stuff. The killer takes blood and writes a figure 8 around the eyes of his wife. And they've got the wife in protective custody because they're afraid that the killer might come for her. So they go see her in protective custody and show her pictures of the office. And she's like, they're like, do you see anything different? Any sort of like thing that might be out of place? Because they're looking for clues because this is some Batman Riddler shit. So she realizes this painting, it's upside down. And it's like this Art Nouveau kind of like, it could be turned anyway. It's like this painting right here. It's like, how would you know if that was upside down, right? So they go and they take the painting off, and then that's when they find the other clue behind the wall written in blacklight, I think. Yeah, they take the painting down and they're kind of looking around trying to see if they see anything. And then, this is when they come back later with the blacklight. This was the first movie, well, actually Fight Club, I think, is when I finally had to admit that Brad Pitt is one of my favorite actors. I struggled with that for so long. Like, just even now, saying it out loud, it's like, Rob Lowe is one of my favorite actors. It sounds dumb as hell. But Brad Pitt was Floyd in True Romance. He's in California. He's in this. He's in Fight Club. He's in the Ocean's 11 movies. He's in Snatch. Like, after a while, I had to just quit denying it. You know what I mean? Like, okay, I give up Brad Pitt. You win. It's like Kobe Bryant. I hated Kobe Bryant for most of his career, and eventually I was like, I can't, fine. I'm tired of beating my head against the wall fighting on this Kobe thing. Like, that's how it is with Brad Pitt. It's just his body of work eventually made it so I couldn't argue anymore. Like, all right, fine. Oh, let's see here. I can't do noises when I'm home alone. She needs tranquility. I have the snapper case. I'm having some Cheetos and rum on the rocks, trying to cut back on the soda to reduce the sugar and lose some weight. Attaboy, Professor. Are you getting into a shape to fight Jamie Kennedy in celebrity boxing? I don't know why him. I thought of you the other night, Professor. I watched Above the Rim and Juice. And when I was watching Above the Rim, I went into my rant about how I don't like Marlon Wayans and I don't like the young Wayans. I like the older Wayans, but I don't like the young Wayans. And I remembered, oh yeah, Professor usually has my back on this argument. Next time I get Marlon Wayans is actually good conversation, I need to track down the Professor. Professor, don't tell who the spoiler cameo at the end is. I wasn't paying attention. I had you bumped up there. Man says she fell asleep in Juice. Yeah, it's that's the problem with the crime drama movies, especially late at night. They're easier to fall asleep to because they usually are dramas. You know what I mean? It's a lot of people talking, a lot of people sitting around, as opposed to like horror movies or action movies, which have like big scores and explosions and things that are intended to keep you awake, Here they do the classic directing move, which Fincher's a master. But when we first meet Brad Pitt and we first meet Morgan Freeman, they never appear in a shot together. So like they'll cut to Brad Pitt and they'll cut to Morgan Freeman and they'll cut to Brad Pitt and they'll cut to Morgan Freeman, or they'll cut to Morgan Freeman and they'll cut to Brad Pitt and Gwyneth Paltrow sitting together, but they don't exist in the same frame until now. This is when they're waiting, I believe, for some sort of report back from the coroner or something, and they're asleep on the same couch. And it's to show you, like, whether you realize it's going on or not, that they're separate. They're not together. And then now their friendship is like forged. They do the same trick in romantic comedies a lot, or romance movies in general. Like the two characters, when we first introduce them, they're separate and they're in different shots. But then when they're on screen together, and then later on a little bit closer and like a tight shot, and you feel like they're almost like the movie is making them kiss, you know? So basically what I'm saying is I'm hoping Morgan Freeman and Brad Pitt make out. I love slow burns, The Changeling, Paranormal Activity, good stuff. Yeah. And I apologize for those of you who listened to the or watched along with the Juice Above the Rim soundtrack or watch along. In that one, the temperature was 70 something earlier in the day, and then it got down to like in the 20s later at night. And we had a snowstorm. So during the middle of that stream, even though I had allergy medicine sitting right here, it sounds like every third thing I say, I'm just gacking up a big rail of Coke like Scarface or something. Like, so I apologize for all the snorting and horting going on that one. That was purely unintentional. I didn't realize it until I went back to try to find where to put the chapters in, and I was like, why am I sniffling so much? Sniveling coward. Yeah, so here we're approaching the sloth. No, not the sloth. The what's the one for laziness? Yeah, sloth, because the other one's gluttony. Yeah, okay. So they get a tip off that the killer is actually in an apartment, and we see John C. McGinley and the SWAT team and all that, and they're on their way in all the SWAT vehicles, and of course the rain is pouring. And this is where they talk about how Morgan Freeman, I'm like 40 years on the job, has never taken, he's taken his gun out 3 times, only like pulled the trigger once. Brad Pitt says how he only pulled his gun once. Just all this sort of like the mundane stuff that goes with being a cop. Everybody thinks it's all just shootouts and whatnot. And it's like, nah, most of the time it's just going and interviewing people and collecting clues and whatnot. Man's laughing. Are you cracking up at me, my sniffles, man? Yeah, and they're talking. Brad Pitt tells his story about like how this kid got shot, and then the cop that died, and he's talking about like how it affects him. We just keep cutting to Morgan Freeman, like looking sad and somber, because that's what Morgan Freeman does. Oh, about them kissing. Yeah, I kind of thought that maybe that's what you were talking about. I would like to see that. That's a good movie. That's a different movie. Ah, the 90s. The cops were exactly. I have a theory that it's that movies are what made these modern cops think it's okay to shoot like that. It's like you're opening fire in public. Like, I mean, obviously they're usually responding to something, but it's having crossfire where there's citizens is very complicated. Here, the cops, we see the SWAT team, and once again, David Fincher magic. Like they have the cops with the flashlights on their guns, and this whole building is super dark, so we see nothing but like overhead lighting and rays of lights, and like, yeah, Fincher really understands how to make these like beams of light tell a story. And yeah, this is one of my favorite parts in the whole movie when they go to this apartment and the guy's been strapped to the bed, and they have a discussion about how like the landlord never heard from him, and they're like, well, yeah, he's the perfect tenant. He pays his rent on time and never complains. And really, he's just tied to the bed, rotting away. But this one isn't technically a murder because the dude's alive. Oh, I think he dies when they find him because he pops to life like he does a jump scare. Yeah, this is a great bit of detail. These like little the pine trees that you put in your car to make them smell good are just hanging up all over the entire apartment to cover up the decaying body smell. Just great shot after great shot. There's a high angle where you see all the little Christmas trees hanging down, and that wide shot through the door where all the little flashlights are pointed. Even there, the way the cops are spread out in threes. We're at the 1:14:10 second mark, and this is a 2 hour and 7 minute movie. So that means 45, roughly 52 minutes are by. Yeah, and they're immediately grossed out because the smell of just this dude's decaying body and ugh. Yeah, it's hard not to just like sit and look at this. Just the way even the blinds are the way they're set uneven, the light comes through. This all looks like a lot of like Ridley Scott stuff. But Fincher did this early on, like in there was a George Michael video, Freedom 92, whatever that is, with all the supermodels in it. It was like Cindy Crawford and Naomi Campbell and a bunch of them. And they put them in this old house that's like leaking. And they're just like walking around listening to the soundtrack, like on headphones and stuff. And in there, it looks like this, like it's an old decaying house, the same way it does in Fight Club, the same way it does in Panic Room. There's just something about the way Fincher understands how to shoot like wood grain and stuff. I don't know. He understands interiors better than other people. Great jump scare coming in 3, 2, 1. Yeah, exactly. He looks crazy. He looks like Eddie from Iron Maiden. Like he looks like a zombie, but not a monstrous zombie. Like the Emperor from Star Wars or whatever. Like he looks like the Living Dead. My husband has never shot a person and has been an officer of 3 times in the last year for some good arrests he's done. Yeah, exactly. Most that's the thing that I don't think that there are maybe necessarily more cops shooting nowadays. I just think nowadays we get more coverage of it. The media, like there's more expanded with people with their phones and all of it. So the likelihood of, I think that's why a lot of the police brutality stuff went up. It's more just cameras than it is actual like cases rising. But how many thousands of police interactions go on in a day without that? So there we see the paparazzi trying to get pictures of the detectives, and then later on we realize that that's actually John Doe. Um, yeah, for sure. Also, those car fresheners really wouldn't have done jack shit with that poopy and the pippy in that room, and the shit's nasty. Yeah, for sure, for sure. And they're saying how they gave him, he fed him antibiotics to keep like the sores from setting in and getting overly infected. And then just how his brain like chewed to like went to mush, and he just like chewed his own tongue off. Like, yeah, to me, that's nastier than anything in any horror movie, or just as nasty. This earlier in the year, I did before Halloween. I did movies that were horror adjacent. Like they weren't quite horror, but they were basically horror. I did Silence of the Lambs in there, and um, I was going to do Dead Zone back then, but it got taken off of whatever streaming service it was on. Um, but on here, this was one I thought about doing because it's just classic. It feels like a horror movie, and you get all the same vibes as a horror movie. Like you're creeped out and weirded out, and like after you watch this, it's hard to trust your neighbor. You know, it's a creepy, disturbing movie, but it's not quite horror. That's like Silence of the Lambs. Like I don't quite consider Silence of the Lambs horror, but everything in it is basically horror. So here, Gwyneth Paltrow calls Morgan Freeman because she doesn't know anybody else in town, and she needs someone to talk to, and she has no friends. They've only been in town literally like less than 10 days, and she's already cracking up. You're never going to last in prison. Oh man, says, oh my God, how is he alive? Yeah. Mikey's Morgue. Hey, Mikey, how you doing, buddy? Owl, cheers with what's that? Probably a tomb. I think that's usually a casket you use. Um, The gluttony scene looks like to me after the munchies from binge drinking. Mikey Mouse, bro. Morning, Gareth. Welcome, welcome. Gareth and I earlier today worked out. I'm going to be on his channel sometime soon to watch The Usual Suspects. I watched The Usual Suspects right around the same time this movie came out. I watched them both on VHS. I watched them later on, and both kind of blew my mind. Like I was like, movies have gotten really good in the mid '90s. So the good twist ending really started to become a thing around this time. Being the wife that stays back home is not that easy. Yeah. Morning, Gareth. Man. Hi, May. Paltrow to Aniston to Jolie. Brad Pitt really like to upgrade on his relationships, huh? Yeah, he kept trading up. I think before Paltrow, he was with Juliette Lewis, I think. So yeah, in my opinion, that's a part of an upgrade. But depends what type of woman you're into. Gareth, hello, good sir. Oh, Gareth, have you seen Seven? I'm sure you have it. This would probably be right in your wheelhouse. When Gareth pops in, we ask him if we've seen these. He hadn't seen the Tupac movies, but he was a big fan of RoboCop and Roadhouse. But here's where I believe she tells him she's pregnant. Is this the part? And she's trying to decide whether or not to keep it. And Morgan Freeman sort of explained to her how he had the same situation too, and how he had regretted it. But I often kind of think, like, they don't really get into it, but I feel like maybe he's kind of telling a story here. Like, I think he might just be like giving her an example to make her think, make her choice a little bit tougher or whatever. Because obviously she has to keep the baby, so when the ending plays the ending, it's more dramatic even. Yeah, Gareth says loads of times. Yeah, that's well, thank you, sir. You helped me out. I feel guilty because this is one of my comfort film movies. I've just seen it so many times over and over. It's creepy and weird. It gives me all the stuff I love about horror, but it also gives me my crime drama, police procedural stuff. This is a really, really good episode of Law and Order, or like, the murder unraveling reminds me of like Forensic Files or something. If you're a person of crime or true crime, this movie's got that for you, but it's also got that horror. I think we're working our part. I think next is probably the Pride, and then I think we work to the Lust murder. The Lust murder, like, psychologically disturbed me. The idea of having to put on a sex toy with a knife. Well, we'll get to it. Man doesn't remember all these. Next time, lucky number 11. Mikey, what do you think of Seven? Is it your cup of tea? I know you generally like these sort of gruesome movies, but usually like earlier stuff. You like stuff from the 80s and the 70s. So yeah, I'd be curious what your thoughts on this are. There's Gwyneth Paltrow being in a perfect, adorable, never gets a zit, never has BO self. If you excuse me, I have to go foster some baby ducks. Videotape. Gareth says he saw it at the cinema. Yeah, this one I saw on VHS and just numerous times because it was at the time in my life where, like, obviously because of my background and being up all night, I'm a lifelong movie lover. But then in the 90s, when the DVD came out, that was at the peak of me learning about filmmaking and about the difference in directorial styles and editing styles and like understanding music, key scores and stuff. So I went back. I loved movies extra a lot in my late teens and early 20s, and would watch them over and over and go back and watch all my old stuff over and over with new, smarter eyes. So Seven is one that I've just seen so many times. For a while, this would play on TBS, and I never understood how. Like, I never watched it on TBS, but it just, so much of it feels like it would have to have been cut around. But I guess into the thousands, it was okay to show blood, but it just feels like a movie that's bordering on NC-17 at times. This is the movie Tony Soprano said, I was watching Seven, I turned it off. Why do I care who the killer is? Yeah, that's one of the amazing things about that. We haven't talked about it yet. I've been kind of doing what the movie's doing, where it keeps the identity of the killer a secret. And the killer is played by a big actor, and they don't say who it is. And we're in the middle of trying to solve this crime and figure out who it is and catch this killer. And at one point in the movie, the killer just shows up and turns himself in. Like, we don't even get the satisfaction of the cop busting the killer. Like, this is the total subvert your expectations movie. That's part of the reason I love it. Like, what kind of movie does the bad guy just come and turn himself in? Like, I give up. Here, take me. But that's part of his master plan. It's crazy. I like it. Saw it twice. Yes, I dwell on the movies from 1968 to 1994 the most. 1 year before this was made. Mikey, you know what? I have a beer here. I'm going to open it because Mikey is here because of that. And drink when I mentioned Video Tasties. So I guess I forgot to drink there too. Tonight is the, oh, that's right. And because it's a Samuel Adams, Cold Snap. And the top says cheers. So that's the traditional shout out to Mikey's Morgue. All right, now this part is fascinating to me. This kind of was one of the first justifications of conspiracy theory and police work or whatever. Like, they claim, that the library has certain books that are flagged. And if people check out these flagged books over and over again, or all the ones on the flagged book list, they end up on a watch list. And they say, like, well, how is that legal? And they're like, it's not. It's just for us to, like, help figure out if we're on the right track. Like, none of this can be used in a court of law. But if we have 3 suspects and, one of them has checked out every book on this damn list, then yeah, it's kind of obvious what's going on. And this whole, like, sidebar, I mean, some would say this was actually going on. Other people would say this probably never went on, but it makes the movie go, and it gives it like a weird conspiratorial twist and adds a shady character to the movie for no reason. This, like, greasy guy who comes and steals their pizza. But then later on, after 9/11, the Homeland Security stuff, this is all legal now. They can do any of this. They can check out your internet search history. They can look at your phone records, any of that without a warrant later on. But at this time, you weren't allowed to. That was an invasion of your privacy. They weren't allowed to be monitoring what books you checked out from the library or what you rented from the video store. That's illegal. Let's see here. Don, you always catch that on what I was saying. Oh, Mikey, you're hilarious, dude. That's one of the reasons I jumped onto you right away. You got a sly wit. I was thinking today, as I was handling my business, about your whole thing about how you take a shower after every time you poop. I was like, I don't know if I have time for all that in my life. Sometimes I got 3 poop day, man. I can't take 3 showers. Depends how much roughage is in my life, man. I need a bidet, though. A bidet would help. I'm pro bidet. Oh, geez, I feel bad for the poor slob who has to peek through my search history. I think about that, too. Like, if I ever get in trouble for something and somebody's got to go through and look at my search history, well, Macabro, yours would be fun. It's like so much boobs. So much boobs. But yeah, me, it's like every 5th one is boobs, and every other one is like, whatever happened to dude from some show? Or how many acting credits does Method Man have? How many lakes in Wisconsin have a sea monster? Poop shower. There you go. Mikey says poop shower. Man's cracking up. You got to be here for all my streams, man. You never can tell what people are going to talk about. Last week on Into House, we talked about kicking turkeys like kickballs. And then Professor made a whole movie trailer for it. So yeah, the Don universe expands out into many directions. My tentacles reach far and wide. Here's a funny 90s joke. He says the Marquis de Sade, and he says Marquis de Sade, because someone in the 90s would be more familiar with Sade than they would be of de Sade. I don't think that joke stands up now. If you're watching along in the replay and you don't know who Sade is, please let me know in the comments. I always hear from Mikey's talk, but oh my God. yeah, that's what I'm saying. Some days I bet that makes Mikey happy to know I was in the middle of taking a crap thinking about Mikey. Like legitimately I was. I was like, I don't know. I got time for a shower? I don't know, man. You were shocked, so you went silent, man. I always kind of love this scene too. This movie has so many parts that just reinvigorate me every time I see him. So here's the part where they go to John Doe's house and they're knocking on the apartment door, and John Doe, some guy comes walking up with groceries, and they think it might be him, and he just drops the groceries and pulls out a pistol and starts shooting at him. And then we have like this chase through the fire escapes and rooftops and garbage cans in the rain. And it's all shot like steady cam, first person, like real hectic and crazy. I have a feeling a lot of the way this is shot is where Bourne Identity got a lot of its shooting style from, like the shaky cam as the guns are fired and the way the handheld, like it's all shot in lockdown shots until we get to these and they're running and it's handheld and aggressive and frenetic. And this is we're achieving something that happens in a lot of film noir. A lot of old school detective and cop movies, they would beat up our lead character. It was like one of the traits of the movie. So like in Chinatown, Jack Nicholson gets his nose split by a knife and spends a bunch of the movie with a piece of a bandage over his nose. And a lot of times in just like these old kind of over the top noir movies, our hero at some point gets his ass kicked. And this is where Brad Pitt gets his ass kicked. Like at one point, John Doe even tells him, like, I broke your face or something. He's like, that's when I had you arrested or whatever. He's like, and that's when I broke your face or I caved your face in. Movies would have you believe it's way easier to have a chase through someone's apartment than it really would be. Like, I just don't believe that so many police chases take place through someone else's house. Movies all the time. So we chased this guy, and then he ran into an apartment, then out through the bathroom window. But they do a good job of like adding suspense and I don't know, jump scares or whatever, if you want to call it, for the a gun. Like they're having a shootout, but like Brad Pitt will like look around a corner and there'll be the guy standing there with the gun shooting at him. So it does like a jump, it feels like a first person shooter or something. It's got intensity and action to it. Once again, all running through the rain because the whole damn thing has to take place in the rain. So you just feel I don't know, I guess The Crow does that as well with just like the rainy, heavy, it feels goth, man. Running through the ballroom of this old hotel in the basement, and we can only see natural light coming in through the windows, but then also the lights along the ceiling are basically the same exact lighting scheme as the one Morgan Freeman's running by in the hallway. So it all edits together perfectly. But you wouldn't even think about that just looking at those two shots cut together. Yeah, Fincher's just a master director. And here, that's a great shot. And here he's at the top of his game. I think Fight Club is probably the key top of his game, but he's really approaching it here. Here in The Game is really good too. So yeah, he's chasing them in the rain. They're having the like fire escape running, and that's a great overhead shot where the rain is coming down into it. It looks very Blade Runner. Like I say, Fincher's a big Ridley Scott fan, so you can see the Ridley Scott influences in some of his stuff. This is all dark blue and gray, but then the headlights of the cars, like they don't cause lens flares. They look almost just like beams of light into our eyes. That's all what filter you use and the choices you make because Fincher's a master. And they do a good job here of like, yeah, Brad Pitt's the young, aggressive cop, and Morgan Freeman's like the kind of slow, smart cop. You know, they end up at the same place basically, but Brad Pitt runs around and wastes a bunch of energy, and Morgan Freeman does it the smart way. So once again, this is one of these scenes where like, yeah, you go around the corner, and we're so used to in movies where they look around the corner and nobody's there. But in this movie, when you look around the corner, there's like a 1 out of 3 chance somebody's going to be there. So the rain just pouring down, and there he busts him in the head with a crowbar. Brad Pitt's already had like his arm broken or whatever, dislocated, and now he's had his face busted in by a crowbar. And then John Doe puts the pistol to his head. This is an iconic scene right here. This angled shot. They use that same shot in Snatch from that, like, with the gun pistol pointing down into the temple like that. And there, Brad Pitt begs for his life. And it's like our hero's at his weakest moment. He has to ask the villain for mercy. That's like, yeah, something you don't see in other movies. At no point does Arnold Schwarzenegger say, "No, please don't kill me." And that's because this movie, even though it's fake as shit and absurd, and it feels like like I said, Batman Riddler story, that just feels so real. Like, no, don't kill me, please. You know, that's not something a hero is supposed to do. But with what we know about Gwyneth Paltrow, I do love this part where he explains to him, we can't go in his apartment because we have no reason to be here. Legally, like, yeah, this is where real life tries to interfere with our silly cop thriller. So then Brad Pitt's like, yeah, okay, you're right. Then he kicks the door in, and he's like, well, unless you can fix that, I guess we can go in now. Yeah, all this where Morgan Freeman's the voice of reason, and Brad Pitt is like, basically Brad Pitt's the heart and Morgan Freeman's the brain. You know, they're having this Spock and Bones kind of conflict of here's what we're allowed to do, and I don't care what we're allowed to do. Here's what I'm gonna do. Brad Pitt just covered in blood. He has had his ass beat. He's got his arm in a sling. Well, he's made a homemade sling with his shirt. Yeah, no point in arguing anymore unless you can fix that. And then once again, a movie, this would never happen in real life where these walls are painted pitch black and there's like these lights and just key strategic places that make it cinematically perfect. But while you're watching this movie, you're just like, wow, that place is creepy. It's like, yeah, it's been set up like that, like a haunted house or something. All right. Well, after watching all that, let's see where I'm at in the chat. That was exhilarating. Oh, Matt got here as soon as I quit talking, of course. Hi, Mikey Man, Professor Gareth, and that guy Don. I'm so happy for the ending. Oh, we love that you're here, Matt. Pugwall, he has agreed to be on Into House in a couple weeks. He's coming up, so keep an eye out for Matt on that. Otherwise, I believe he and Larry and I will be doing something together. We're in the midst of coordinating. Movie as yet to be determined. Matt, what up, my friend? Yeah, see, we love Pugwall. Matt's my brother from another. Right away, he and I lined up, and we're of like mind on a lot of things. He's good people, kindred spirits, I say. Roses are red, violets are blue. I'll break your face, please, squad. Queen Man, I Pug. Imagine trying to sleep with a train rattling your house or something. Yeah, it's hard to imagine. Just awakening, Mikey. Thanks for the support of my videos. I think I've been shadow banned recently. But stick with me, bro. Hey, Professor, how's Evil Machinations going? Yeah, I like that everybody knows the professor's up to evil work. They're coming down nicely, Matt. That's what I said, Mikey. Excellent. So I think we're all caught up. Good, good. I was worried I was neglecting folks while I was watching Brad Pitt run through the rain. That's one of the better police chases. Like I said, it reminded me a lot of Blade Runner, but still, it's in a cop movie like this, there's going to have to be a chase scene. And it's too congested in cityscape. Like the whole point of the city is just how there's too many people and everything. So I think a car chase wouldn't work in this movie because it would work against the logic of there's just too many people on the street. So now they're in John Doe's apartment. Like I said, it's cinematically perfect. Like the whole thing looks like it was set up by a cinematographer, not a real person. Like no normal person would live in a cave like this. Well, I guess that's the point. He's not a normal person, but it gets back to my stuff earlier. I was saying about how Fincher does a lot of Ridley Scott type things. This is all Ridley Scott. These dark walls with red lights and the like those lights they use for looking at X-rays. Like it's a light you put on the wall and you put an X-ray against it to have the light shine through it. Like why would John Doe need that? And somehow John Doe's apartment in New York City is like 9 bedrooms. Like it's so huge that it takes forever to walk through. It's like, what's his rent? $4,000 a month in 1995? What? You saying it's not normal to have your room set up all creepy? Yeah, exactly. Thoughts on using numbers in titles? Was this the first? Meg Threegan? Oh, yeah, well, I feel you. That's what you mean by numbers in titles. Yeah, I think this might have been the first. And it's even debated on the internet. Some websites have it as 7 with a V, and other movies have 7 with the 7 as the V. In my metadata, in the title, I put 7 with the 7 as the V, and then in the description, I used the 7 with the V, so that way I would the metadata would work out better in my way. But yeah, I think this is probably the first, unless like I don't know, maybe there's some sort of weird poster trickery, like something where they use the word book, like the third movie was book of something, and they turned the book, the B, into a 3 or something. I don't know. What about Jaws 3D? Does that count? But as far as like a clever hipster, fancy artistic choice to flip the 7 and make it a V, I think this might be the first to do that. And then Megan is, I don't know, there's probably been a lot since then. What about Too Fast, Too Furious? Does that count? It was after this, but and don't forget about Fantastic Four. See, that's the chat always knows. Great minds think alike. I need to own this film again. I feel like it was a staple of every dude's collection. I'll read that aloud for the podcast audience. I need to own this film again. I feel it was a staple of every dude's collection if they owned at least 5 DVDs. That is, I don't know if you were here for that. That is almost exactly the story I told earlier about how this became a comfort food movie for me. It was like one of the first 10 VHS I owned and probably one of the first 10 DVDs I own. It's such a miserable, sad movie, but it's so amazing. Like even this, he's leaning, they're in John Doe's apartment and they're like going through and finding clues, and they've now discovered his notebooks. And they're going through the notebooks, and Morgan Freeman's reading aloud from one, so we understand, how his mind works. And it's kind of sad and crazy, and you realize that there are hundreds of volumes of this guy's insane ramblings just written down in these notebooks all over the place. But when they cut to Brad Pitt, the way the notebooks are positioned on the wall and the shot he's in, where every green notebook is like every 5th spaced out, it makes like a beautiful pattern. Like right now, that shot is on. So it makes almost like a portrait of him. Fincher's, he knows how to shoot things. So even something like this, where just people are sitting around in a room talking, there's just so much like color and depth and shine and even though the walls are black. Totally insane. Oh, let's see. Fate of the Furious. Oh, that's not a bad one. So yeah, here's where they're in John Doe's house, and then the phone rings, and John Doe calls them at their apartment. He's like, "I don't know how you found me, but you did." And then yeah, they're kind of just bantering back and forth. The movie still hasn't revealed who John Doe is to us yet. That's one of the things many things I admire about this movie is that they did a good job of making sure that they didn't give it away in the reviews or in the box art. Or it'd be real easy to make sure to put this character, that actor's name above the title or at least in the list of people, and blank as John Doe. So yeah, Morgan Freeman here is like almost admiring John Doe about like this big Riddler thing he's constructed here. Yeah, this all feels just like some Batman Riddler stuff. But here's where they discover the blonde, the prostitute, and then later on they show how that's the victim of the next crime. We are at 42:40 left in this movie, so roughly an hour in. Just under an hour in. I don't know. I'm. This maybe is the first time I've ever seen this on HD, whatever 1080p. I've watched it a bunch on the up converter. I have a Blu-ray player that has an up converter, so it plays DVDs. It's supposed to like turn them into 720 or 1080p. Depending on the disc or whatever. But I don't think it does that. I think it actually turns it to 720p, but then it doubles the frame rate because everything looks like it's like 60 frames per second. Like there's way more weird depth. So I think I've watched this movie in that presentation, but I haven't seen it. And then, of course, I've seen it in the old school, whatever, 480p or whatever that TV used to be. But I don't know if I've ever seen this in 1080p before like this. Surprisingly, not that much more depth to it. A lot of rich colors, though. Did Seven come in a 2-disc set that looked like a notebook, or am I thinking of Memento? You're thinking of both. This one had that. It was the black sleeve, and you would pull out the notebook, and it looked like the classic composition book, the black and white kind of, frenetic modern art kind of thing. And then, the little white block that says composition book. And then the Memento was a medical chart. You would pull it out of the slide, and it was like a case chart of old buddy's name. I can't think of it, the Guy Pearce character. And then you pull it out of there, and you open it up like a medical chart, like from top to bottom. That was a super cool one. I also have the Pulp Fiction set that comes, or no, I'm sorry, not Pulp Fiction, Reservoir Dogs, that comes in the gas can. And then you open up the gas can and it take out a big pack of matches. And the pack of matches, and you open it up, it's the discs are in there. Yeah, I love a good like over the top box set. Like whenever they just do something absurd with the packaging, I'm always on board. I have a bunch of those Marvel ones where it's like Iron Man's mask, or well, I shouldn't say Marvel because I have a Batman one, but Target did a thing where they released all the masks as the covers of the box and stuff. They were like super funky. Yeah, so here's old boy. I can't remember this actor's name, but we see the Polaroid of the sex toy. It's like a strap-on with a knife at the end of it. And he's like explaining how the guy came in while he was having sex with the prostitute, made him put on the strap-on, and then like basically F that lady to death. And like he has a nervous breakdown in the middle of his testimony or whatever, his statement to the police. And he's the classic traumatized guy. He's naked with a blanket. He's covered in sweat and blood. He just looks like just traumatized. I think this is the one that disturbs me the most, and out of all of these, the sloth one, I think most people, or I'm sorry, the gluttony one is I think a lot of people's least favorite, and then sloth. But this one bugs me the most because yeah, they attach to sex stuff. I don't know. But once again, the David Fincher knows how to just shoot stuff amazing. We cut to a reel-to-reel projector or a tape recorder while that guy's giving his testimony. So it's kind of like Clute or something. You know, it's just some guy sitting there talking, and he figures out ways to make it look great. Like there, we do a dolly shot from one interrogation room to the other, and we can kind of see the reactions of both detectives. He's a master, I tell you. He's a master. I would say my Dude Essentials collection would have True Romance, mainly for fantasy girlfriend reasons. Pugwall, once again, you're with me. That's True Romance was one of the first 10 VHS I owned, and I think one of the first 10 DVDs I owned. I owned the True Romance Snapper case, and then later on, when True Romance came out on a double disc with a commentary by Tarantino and Tony Scott together, I bought that like the day it came out. I was at Target that morning and shit. But yet, I mentioned True Romance earlier. It's one of my favorite of all times. It's probably one of my top 5. Once again, another Brad Pitt performance. That stack of dusty late teens 20 DVDs. Yep. The best Brad Pitt movies are Cutting Class in California. I will agree with California, and How Dare You with Cutting Class. Is that the one where he's a sprinter with Ricky Schroeder? Is that one? Or is that a different one? Brad Pitt does, I mentioned him earlier. He's California, True Romance, Snatch, the Ocean's 11, 12, 13, 7, Fight Club, Inglorious Bastards, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Yeah, Brad Pitt's just endlessly... He's a guy I wish I could hate because he seems unlikable, but it's like, nope, he seems cool as hell. He seems like just some dude who's super stoned all the time and gets to lead the life all the rest of us wish we could. Memento would be another essential at that time. Good call. Yeah, Memento is fantastic. That was one I watched over and over around this same area. I think this was out on video like a year or two after this. And yeah, around that same 5-year period when I was in college and always had roommates around, Memento was one that... Have you seen the one where the guy gets the clues tattooed all over him? It's crazy. 7, Fight Club, Pulp Fiction, Reservoir Dogs, and Clerks used to be the 5 go-to 90s DVD, most of my own. I had all of those, and I love all of those. Those are some of my favorite movies of all time. So that's that's a good collection right there. Those are probably in my top 10 of all time, I would say, for sure. 7's right on the cusp. Something like Empire Strikes Back might knock out 7 because I got to save room for some others. But yeah, these are all ones I recognize and have seen a bunch. Yep, I was an edgy indie dude and had all those. I think the only one I still have is Clerks. I had Clerks on VHS, and I think I had like 3 different versions of DVD and then a Blu-ray. That Clerks X DVD, now that's a box set. It's like just a huge, absurd, like 4 discs. It's like Clerks doesn't need 4 discs or whatever the hell's in there. Cheetah, Patrick, you're still here? Hoot's still with you? Man, I appreciate it, buddy. I know sometimes at night your internet goes out. But yeah, I appreciate you being here up with us late. This one's going to be, we got to be getting close. We got a half hour yet? 35 minutes. So yeah, when you figure with credits, we're probably getting close to a half hour. There, Brad Pitt gets in bed and spoons with Saint Gwyneth. Once again, just being perfect. She looks like she smells good from here. And once again, I would like to point out, in every other thing made, I don't like Gwyneth Paltrow. I've never once thought like, Gwyneth. I usually find her to be not my type. But in this, yeah, she's just so crafted to be likable. It's absurd. Let's see here. The Strange Simpson set that is different to every other seasons drove me mad. Yeah, the one, I think it's a Bart head. Is that what it is? Or is it a Homer head? Where it's just like bizarre shape and it doesn't sit in the rest of the collections right. The cheetah has arisen. Live Style Rewind. Just woke up on the couch. I'm going back to bed. Just giving to say the best Brad Pitt role in movie or definitely burn after reading. See, look at there. There's another good Brad Pitt one I forgot about. Yeah, that's a good one to include as well. Yeah, that's what I mean. Brad Pitt was great in Troy. Thank you, Liv. I appreciate you dropping by. That was nice of you. Brad Pitt was great in Troy. Yeah, he was. That's what I mean. Brad Pitt's a dude I wish I could be like, he sucks, but he's in so many good movies. I'm not even a big of a fan of Cool World, but it's a pretty cool movie. You know what I mean? Like it's a ripoff of Who Framed Roger Rabbit, but it's fun in its own weird way. What's that one? Johnny Suede or something? Where he's got like the big ridiculous pompadour. I don't barely remember that one. Night Live. Man, no, Ricky Schroeder is not in Cutting Class. What's the one about what's Cutting Class? I don't know if I remember that one then. What's the one where Other Side of the Tracks or some shit where it's like Brad Pitt and Ricky Schroeder are like young and they're both long distance runners in high school. I think that was the first movie I ever saw Brad Pitt in. Mikey says Olivia. Mr. and Mrs. Smith was cheesy. Yeah, Mr. and Mrs. Smith I think is more famous for them, Brad and Angelina hooking up more than it is for actually being a good movie. So now here the Pride murder has happened, and that's the one with the model who would rather die than live with a disfigured face. So when that's done, we see them walking back to the police station and going back inside, and the rain is gone. Now it's the streets are wet, but the sun is out, like it's daytime. And of course, the cab pulls up, and we see the feet of the John Doe get out and just start walking up behind him. Because the movie's been in the rain the whole time they're trying to solve this mystery, and now the sun comes out, and the bad guy walks in with his hands in the air and gives up. Insane. But this is more amazing framing. Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman are going up the steps, and there's a big, huge American flag behind them. And then as John Doe, Kevin Spacey, is revealed, he walks in with his hands out, and you can see his fingers are all cut up because he's been cutting off his fingertips so he won't leave fingerprints. And there's that crazy shot of the American flag behind Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman as they have their guns out and they're walking down towards him. Like, he just knows how to stage things and make stuff look like so iconic. Kevin Spacey looks young there. I forgot. Damn. I knew he was bald in this, but I forgot how young his face was. And there we see Kevin Spacey's fingerprints. They're you can see the ink in them, but each one has blood too. So they're just like gross. Yeah, that's amazing. Like, just such a cool scene. This movie does such a good job at like making gross into art. Roddy McDowell is in Cutting Class. I don't think I've seen Cutting Class then. I don't know. Clerks X is the one. My Pugwall knows. I own Clerks X and that short-lived. Yep. I own the same ones, Professor. I actually like the Clerks animated series. It's kind of stupid, but it's funny on like an airplane kind of. It was a predecessor to Family Guy, where you just throw like 90 million jokes against the wall and just hope something sticks. Like, the Clerks animated series does a good job of that. At the end of every episode, they would do like a G.I. Joe or a Transformers type thing where, you know, like one of the clerks teaches a little kid a valuable lesson or whatever. And it's a rainy day, and there's like these two little kids, and the one little girl tells the little boy, like, it's raining out, we can't go out inside and play. And then the little boy's like, well, we should make a movie. And the little girl says, yeah, take off your shirt. And there's a part where like Alec Baldwin character, like the guy who's like the mayor of the town, is trying to like have some people buy Canada or something, and he's explaining that it's raining on them, and he's like, well, try shooting it. There's just so many memorable lines. That's another one I used to just put on in the background and leave. Like, I'll just let the Clerks cartoon run, you know, all 8 episodes. It'll take like whatever, 6 hours or whatever. But now here, Kevin Spacey's lawyer has shown up. And he's explaining how his client will only reveal the details of the 7th murder to Mills in Somerset, and he'll only do it at this place. And they're kind of negotiating with the terrorist here. Richard Roundtree's back. I love Shaft. Oh, and also honorable mention to being Cliff Booth. Yeah, the Blue Velvet. Why did my brain want to say Blue Suede? Because I was talking about Johnny Suede earlier. Heck yeah, I've never been a Brad fan ever since the whole Jan Aniston factual. But Burn After Reading, he's such a freaking idiot. I love him so much. Thelma and Louise, that's the classic Brad Pitt. I think that's where he got his big break. Like, I think that's where the world knew who he was. And that's where I think it became easy to dislike him, because he was just like a handsome face and abs. But then his choices were just all so good, like the movies he picked. You mentioned California. That's a great movie. Interview with a Vampire, 12 Monkeys. See, there you go. There's 2 more awesome ones. His overall catalog is incredibly impressive. 12 Monkeys, I completely forgot about. He's awesome in that. When is Down in the Dumps returning? I don't ever see dump bins anymore. I checked Walmart the other day. They don't have one out here. I do have to go back home, or towards where I used to live, I should say, to see some family 2 weeks from now or something. So whenever the 12th is. Yeah, so 2 weeks from now, I got to go back that way. And I know that a couple places in that area that had decent dump bin collections. But thank you for shouting out Down in the Dumps, Patrick. I appreciated it. It's a short-lived. I knew that dump bins would be going away because physical media in stores was going away, because most stores knew that the space physical media takes up to try to sell, they don't make enough of a profit on. So they were actually losing money on their physical media sections. They only make $1 or $2 on each DVD. Even if they make $5, they could put something else in that shelf space that would make more than a $5 profit. So when I understood the math on all that, I knew physical media in traditional stores like Target and Walmart, and that would be drying up. And that was kind of part of the theme of the show, is to document the stuff going away. I wish I would have been around. I wish I would have brought my handy cam to record the demise of VHS. That would have been cool footage to have now. Oh, let's see here. Is someone taking care of your amazing collection while you've been away? It's in storage. My storage is running through till the end of March, I believe. So I'm hoping to be settled by then. I have a lead on a place that I'm hoping to work out. If not, I'm gonna have to bite the bullet and start heading back towards the more populated areas where there's more apartments. That's the problem with the country, is there's only like one apartment complex for like every 100 miles. Well, every 20 miles, I should say. They're not as prevalent. Back where I used to live, there were so many apartments everywhere, or so many rooms for rent. It's like out in this area, it struggles. But luckily, the reason I've been in this area, I've almost got finished though, so we'll see how that goes. But here we see they agreed to John Doe's terms, and they both put wires on because they're going to need to document the whole thing. And of course, Brad Pitt's wearing a bulletproof vest because he's like, he's wearing his on the outside of his shirt because he wants to show it off, because that's how like the cool guy would wear it. But then Morgan Freeman has his on under his shirt, and like it's hidden, so it makes him look just like heavy. You still do thrift stores and yard sales? Yeah, I do need to hit up yard sales, especially out here in the country, man. People out here have the big rummage sales where like they'll put them on a farm and stuff, where like a bunch of houses will go. I've seen a couple of them. I wouldn't be surprised if some folks out here probably still have VHS. When I used to work for MGA Inc., and it was like this company that owned all these like video stores and stuff. And the branch that I worked for, the movie galleries, their business plan was to specifically be in smaller towns where Blockbuster and Family Video weren't. So they would try to find towns with like less than 5,000 population. And the phase out of VHS to DVD in those like smaller towns, it was like pulling teeth. People were like, man, how dare you? I'm going to go somewhere else. It's like they got rid of VHS years ago, man. But once again, this whole movie's been taking place in downpour rain. And now the bad guy has come to surface and it's all gone. Like the light's out and the sun's out. Things are drying up. I like this. The Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman are in the front seat and Kevin Spacey's in the back seat. And we're shooting back and forth through the cage. So there's like the metal grates in between the close-ups of them. So we, psychologically we feel like we have Kevin Spacey locked up or we've got him behind a jail. But Spacey's perfect for this role. Like his ability to just speak so calmly with no emotion in what he says. He's almost like a robot. He's like, yeah, he's got this like full-on Brent Spiner data thing going where he just like keeps telling him like, you're going to be so amazed, like you're not going to believe it when you see it. And yeah, he feels like he's like just completely out of his mind, but at the same time, clearly smart at one point. And yeah, we're at there's 22 minutes and 30 seconds left in this movie. So they are approaching the desert. They're on their way out there, and we got the helicopters, and we're getting ready to have back off. John Doe has the upper hand. I often say that like when I think things are going to go one way and they kind of go a little bit south on me, like I sort of in my mind hear the words John Doe has the upper hand. It just means like everything has gone to shit. Never mind. It was supposed to be good, and we knew how this was going to go, but the evil forces of the world are back in control. This is great right here. Brad Pitt is just saying, so like, you're just sitting around in your underwear, reading Guns and Ammo, covered in peanut butter, jerking off or whatever. And Kevin Spacey's like, that would be so easy for you, right? To like think of me as some crazy lunatic when I'm actually perfectly sane. It's almost more chilling and haunting. It feels like they're digging more into the mind of someone like Hannibal Lecter instead of just having him toy with them constantly. Another great shot with the literally great shot. God damn it, Don. Yeah, a great shot, Great, not a Grate shot, where there's the fence in between them, and we can see Kevin Spacey's eyes and the diamond cut, and it's almost like a mask that. So well made. And there, Morgan Freeman kind of out logics John Doe, and you can see John Doe like get upset. And then Kevin Spacey just sort of steers the conversation to a different direction. Yeah, it's hard not to just be entranced because this is just powerhouse acting is all this is. That we've been in a car for like 5 minutes and we're just cutting from Morgan Freeman to Brad Pitt. So once again, they're separate. Where earlier I said they're in different shots. Now we're not seeing a shot where Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman are together. They're separate in their experiences at this point. They're not a team right now. And then the whole part here, this is where Kevin Spacey's explaining why he picked each victim. Like the man who is so fat that you and your friends laugh at how gross he is, or the woman who's so ugly she would rather die than live a moment of being not pretty on the outside, or the lawyer so corrupt that he, frees child molesters and people who are terrible, and gets them out on the street and gets rich off of it. And like he explains the pathology of why he chose each victim, the junkie who would just lay in bed all day and be high on heroin if he could. And he just talks about like how his detest and disgust for society. It's like I say, it's the expanded John Doe, like, or expanded Hannibal Lecter. Like Hannibal Lecter, we know kind of has the same thoughts and logic and viewpoints on the world, like the contempt for the world. But it's not, we don't get into his mind the way we get into John Doe's mind here. It's like hanging out with those notebooks. I never mentioned earlier too, this has got a banging Trent Reznor soundtrack, especially the opening scenes where they remix Closer, the Nine Inch Nails song. And they lay it over John Doe building his notebooks, and you don't really know what that is until later on in the movie when you understand, or you go back and you watch it a second time. And then once again, he explains, the only reason I'm here is because I wanted to be. You weren't going to catch me. Like, the only reason I'm in your custody is because I gave up. Like, he taunts them with the fact that you aren't doing nothing. Like, you're ineffectual. And Morgan Freeman is just soaking it all up with his eyes and his sour puss. Yeah. I seem to remember us knocking on your door, and I seem to remember breaking your face. You're only alive because I didn't kill you. Yeah, once again, going back to that scene where Brad Pitt says, no, that's not something the hero in the movie does. Perseus does not beg for his own survival. The Rock at no point begs for his life in a movie. But these heroes are flawed. They're real people in a fake ass story, but it delves into the human mind and emotion in these situations, which is so much deeper than a movie like this should be. It's supposed to be some dumb schlock detective movie. Oh, let's see here. Where is Spacey is a brilliant actor. I agree. What's in the box? A head of cabbage. Yeah, so we're coming down to the end here. The Lord works mysterious ways. Yeah, we're at the 16-minute, 30-second mark. Another great shot. We see it's a helicopter shot of a helicopter. Like right now they're using a helicopter shot where they've got a helicopter flying along filming. Now you'd use a drone, but they have the police helicopter. So they're filming it like they're helicopter above the car. But they explain once again how John Doe was smart enough to pick an area that was full of high tension wires, so that way the police helicopters couldn't land and that the walkie-talkies would be bad. So he intentionally went out to this area that would be perfect to get him isolated. And then I do remember this weird joke. They get out of the car and they look around and they're like, "What is it?" They're like, "It's a dead dog." And Spacey goes, "I didn't do that." That's kind of a funny, like, tension relieving scene before the real stuff hits the fan here. That's kind of crazy. In the HD, when they do the pan across the shots, across the high tension wires, the wires look almost like they're vibrating. Like you can almost feel the hum of the electricity off the wires. This look right here with the ear length sideburn and the goatee, I think like probably 2 out of every 5 dudes I knew had that same look. I'm gonna go 3 out of 5 actually. At one point or another, like every one of my friends had the goatee sideburns. I had it many a time. That was before I grew in the full beard. That was my frequent look. Actually, was I had an Amish beard phase, but then it got to be too much, and I had to go full beard. But yeah, that sideburns goatee look, that's a man classic. I'm surprised that hasn't made a comeback. But Morgan Freeman, of course, has the old detective raincoat on and a friggin' like Rex Harrison hat, as old girl calls it in Weird Science. And then he's got the boring mustache, boring brown tie. This is Bird 2. They're moving away from the car. I love good walkie-talkie chatter. Here they got we're seeing the shot of the John Doe and Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman, Somerset and Mills. We see them walking through the field, and it's from the helicopter point of view, so it's supposed to be like binoculars. So there's like a big vignetting around the screen. And there, we've talked enough about cinematography, and here comes the special delivery service. So yeah, they're standing out here in the middle of the desert, and all of a sudden a van just comes rolling up all fast. Which is weird because you would think the police would like section off the road or whatever, but I suppose they couldn't. They didn't know where they were going. And once again, we talked about during Aliens, and I talked about it for the few other movies. Sometimes, as an audience, we're put in a position where we're separated from the main characters. So all this helicopter stuff is like supposed to be representation of the audience. Like we're watching the story and we can't do anything about it. We're on the outside of it. So Morgan Freeman pulls the guy, the speedy delivery guy over. Oh, I do remember this. He searches the truck and he's like, "I'm going to send the delivery driver out on foot." And he's like, "Run!" And dude just takes off running. That shot's amazing. He looks off into the distance, and it's all the tall golden grass, and then over in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen is Morgan Freeman, or of Brad Pitt and Kevin Spacey, and he's like holding the gun on him, and Kevin Spacey's down on his knees, and just the shot of it, like the wide open sort of like plains shot of it, sort of amazing. Fincher cinematography is just always like the the composition of the shots and the way everything looks. Okay, off you go. I'm sending the driver out on foot. Once again, kind of a tension relieving, jokey moment, right? Like where there's all this tension and we know something's going on and the box has been delivered and we don't know what's in the box. And they're just milking it. Like there we see Morgan Freeman literally wringing his hands. Like we're letting the tension build. Like, what's in the box? I'm going to open it. And then the musical score is rising. Like I have it on mute and I can feel the musical score rising. I've seen this so many times. So he's cutting open the box on the sides, and he's got that switchblade he's had the whole movie, which is so weird for that character. He's like this old Frank Sinatra detective looking mug. So he opens up the box and he opens the first flap, and we just keep prolonging it. We cut to Brad Pitt. We cut to Kevin Spacey. We cut to the trucks. We cut to the helicopter. He slowly lifts it, and we cut away, and we see this. And they just keep stretching and stretching to build the tension and suspense. And now Morgan Freeman realizes what's in the box. And he turns and looks at Brad Pitt like, "Oh, shit." And he looks back down in the box, and we can't see what's in the box. And he's taking a big gulp. "California, stay away from here. Don't come in here. Whatever you hear, stay away." John Doe has the upper hand. I love that line reading. John Doe has the upper hand. I wish I could have lived like you. Throw away your gun. Throw away your gun. What are you talking about? I admire you and your pretty wife. What? Tracy. What the fuck did you say to me? It's disturbing how easily a member of the press can get information about people in your precinct. And you see him realizing, like, wait a minute, how do you know my wife and her name? And they just keep slowly letting the tension build and the theme rise. I visited your home this morning after you left. I tried to play husband. I tried to taste the life of a simple man. And then handheld with Morgan Freeman running, throw your gun down, throw your gun down. Yeah, this is such an amazing thing because no matter how many times you see it, it plays differently. The first time you see it, you're confused. You're like, what is going on? What's in the box? Just like Brad Pitt, what's in the box? And we know Morgan Freeman's worried, and we kind of have a vague idea it's something to do with his wife is in the box. Because I envy your normal life. It seems that my envy is sin. So give me the gun. And then he just like pokes the gun into his head all mean and nasty. No. Tell me it's not true. Become vengeance. So we've had now 6 or 5, and then the 6th is envy, and he wants David to become vengeance and be the final masterpiece out of his 7. She begged for her life and for the life of the baby inside her. And Morgan Freeman backhands him like a pimp slaps him. So we see even Morgan Freeman can't remain cool with this shit going on. This cinematography is amazing. Like, it's super shadowy and contrasty, but we can also see like the pores in their skin. Like it works weird in this high definition, the Fincher shadows. So now Brad Pitt's crying his eyes out and he's like fighting the urge. We saw earlier with the scene where he kicked the door open that he's gonna do what he's gonna do. Give me a gun, David. And then the music score picks back up with intensity and we realize like his nuts are dropping and he's gonna do what he has to do. If you kill him, he will win. Like even right now, I've got the goosebumps. It's he's in a no-win situation. It's the Kobayashi Maru. There's nothing he can do. What's he gonna do? Let this guy murder his wife and baby? So he just goes and puts a bullet right in his damn head. Blah! And then the way the camera goes and like they show the helicopter people freaking out, like holy shit. And yeah, Morgan Freeman's just defeated because he knows evil won. And Brad Pitt's complete lunatic now. He's just staring off into space, crying, slobber dropping out of his nose and his mouth. He's like, ugh. So crazy. Like the way, yeah, basically the bad guy wins. I mean, they have a little redemptive thing at the end, but the movie itself plays to where the villain wins. And there's Brad Pitt, completely lost his mind, sitting in the back of the cop car, a vegetable, basically. He's just insane now. And Morgan Freeman and R. Lee Ermey are kind of like watching him being driven off, like, Jesus. But then Morgan Freeman says, R. Lee Ermey says, where are you going to be? Morgan Freeman says, I'll be around. So like the message of the movie is he was going to quit on trying to fight for humanity, but because of this situation, he's going to stay fighting, for what's right or what's good. The world is a fine place and worth fighting for. I agree with the second part. Yeah, beautiful. So then we get the credits. Yeah, amazing. Let me see here. If you like this, you may also like The Sum of All Fears. That's another movie where with Morgan Freeman and a young white guy, but that has the bad guys get a big W in that one as well. Chain Reaction, also Morgan Freeman. Full Metal Jacket. That's kind of interesting, I suppose, because Kevin Spacey looks like Vincent D'Onofrio. I don't know. The Hunted with Benicio del Toro and Tommy Lee Jones. Leviathan, Behind Enemy Lines. I can see that a little bit. From Dusk Till Dawn came out around the same time. Clear and Present Danger, Escape from LA, Escape from Alcatraz, Everest, Patriot Games. Yeah. Killing Them Softly. A lot of these are Man on Fire, I agree with. I think Man on Fire feels like it's a worthy you might also like. But let's see what's going on with the chat here. Oh, let's see. As my sinuses start to act up. Let's see where we're at. Hey, Don and Chad, what's in the box? Russell's here. There he is. Hey, Russell. Russell. Hey, Professor. And he opens the box and sees John Doe's poo. Hey, Mikey, and great shorts in your video on Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon is great. Yeah. To this day, some people I know swear they saw Paltrow's head in the box. There's one shot, at least one of the cuts I've seen, I didn't notice it this time, where when he opens the box, you can kind of see like a tuft of blonde hair, kind of. I could never tell on old school VHS if it was flapping tape or what, but I think you can see a little blonde hair. Yeah, I never saw no head. No, that's like the same in Reservoir Dogs. When they cut off that dude's ear, they don't show the cutoff. Like the camera pans away, but then later on we see dude with his ear cut off. So a lot of people think they saw the ear cutting off scene. It's just really good directing. Thank you, Russell. I appreciate that. You're awesome. Fun fact, Kevin Spacey kept his name off the credits and never went to the premiere because he wanted to surprise the audience when he revealed his character. Yeah, we were trying to kind of keep that a bit of a secret while we were talking earlier. The movie does goes out of its way to make sure that we don't know Kevin Spacey's in it. By the way, a notable thing about this movie is the credits go in reverse. They pan down or whatever. Instead of notes go up, these go backward down because they're disjointed and crazy like John Doe's notes. Is he insane in the main membrane? Insane in the brain? Maybe he had to go drain the main membrane. I got to pay attention to the end. Yeah, you do got to pay attention to the end, man. Let's see here. 187, love the film. Hey, man, and Chuck. Yeah, well, like I said, it's 3:13 Central Time now, so that means it's 4:15 a.m. Eastern Time. This one, I do apologize for throwing on you. It's going to start helping us bridge back the gap. I got to start getting back to horror and sci-fi. I neglect my main audience, but I've been enjoying doing these comfort food movies with you. I'm sure I have a few more locked up, but some of them will start leaning more towards horror going forward. And then maybe we'll have a few theme weeks here and there. I know I'd like to do a Tarantino week, and I know I'd like to get to a Batman and a few other movies, maybe a Star Wars. Go ahead and watch all of those. You know what I mean? I'd like to do some other themes, but we got to stick with the main oceans that got us here. You got to dance with who brung you. So we'll be getting back to some horror here shortly. That's kind of what this was, to get us back towards the horror track. Yeah, what does Chuck mean? LOL. Charles? But I would like to thank all of you for joining me tonight for this watch along of Seven, the Brad Pitt, Morgan Freeman, David Fincher masterpiece. I'm sure I'll watch plenty of other David Fincher movies. Like I said, he's one of my favorites of all time. Also, be sure to tune back in here tomorrow for Into House with me and your buddy, the Horror Cat Dad. Also, be sure to tune in a couple weeks when Matt will be a guest on that show. Keep an eye out on Video Tasty's channel. He and I will be doing The Usual Suspects soon. So if you're a fan of Kevin Spacey and movies from this era, you'll get a big dose there. Man says she's going to crash. Good. I'm glad. Thank you for staying up so late for me. Oh, LOL. Yeah, I'm going to hit the bed myself. It's 3:15 now. That's a perfect time to wrap it up. So I thank you for joining me for the late night watch along of Seven. And I I wish you and yours green grass and high tides forever. All right. Thank you for joining me, my friends. Have a good